Have you ever wondered about a place so remote, so utterly isolated, that its story seems almost impossible?
Imagine a tiny speck of volcanic land in the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles from any continent. This is Rapa Nui, or as it's more commonly known, Easter Island.
And on this lonely island stand hundreds of colossal stone figures, the Moai. They gaze inland with silent, enigmatic expressions, their backs to the endless sea.
For centuries, they have guarded their secrets, posing a question that has captivated explorers and scientists alike. Who built them, and why?
These are not just statues. They are the last vestiges of a complex society, a puzzle carved in stone that we are only now beginning to piece together.
The sheer scale of this achievement is difficult to comprehend. Nearly 1,000 of these monolithic statues were carved, some reaching heights of over 30 feet and weighing as much as 80 tons.
That is the weight of several large lorries, all hewn from solid volcanic rock using nothing more than stone tools.
The people who accomplished this feat lived in complete isolation, cut off from the rest of the world and its technological advancements. They had no wheels, no cranes, and no large animals to help them.
The mystery deepens when we consider that they not only carved these giants, but also moved them many miles across the island's rugged terrain to place them upon ceremonial platforms. The first European visitors who arrived on Easter Sunday in 1722 were utterly bewildered.
They found a sparse population living on a largely barren island, seemingly without the resources or manpower to create such monumental works.
How could so few people, on an island with almost no trees, have managed such a colossal undertaking? It was a paradox that fueled centuries of speculation, theories ranging from lost civilizations to extraterrestrial intervention.
The truth, as is often the case, is far more fascinating and far more human. It is a story of ingenuity, devotion, and ultimately a stark warning.
Its volcanic origins blessed it with the soft, tough rock of the Rano Raraku quarry, the very material from which the Moai were born. But its isolation also made it a fragile, self-contained ecosystem.
The story of the Moai is inextricably linked to the story of the island's environment. To understand the silent stone giants, we must first understand the island world they inhabited and the remarkable people who called it home.
Their journey is a microcosm of the human experience, a tale of ambition, faith, and consequence. To understand the statues, we must first meet their creators. These were not aliens or a lost super race. They were Polynesians.
Master seafarers who navigated the vast Pacific using the stars, the currents, and the flight of birds. Sometime between 800 and 1200 AD, a small group of these intrepid explorers set out from an island likely in East Polynesia, perhaps the Gambier Islands, perhaps the Marquesas Islands.
They traveled in large, double-hulled canoes, packed with everything they needed to start a new life. Taro, sweet potato, chickens, the Polynesian rat, which stowed away for the journey. Their arrival on the uninhabited shores of Rapa Nui marked the beginning of a unique and isolated society. This new world was at first a paradise.
The island was covered in a lush, subtropical forest, dominated by a species of giant palm tree, now extinct, which would prove crucial to their future. The soil was fertile and the seas teemed with fish. The population grew steadily, and over the centuries the Rapa Nui people developed a rich and complex culture. They were organized into clans, each led by a chief who traced his lineage back to the founding king, Hotu Matua.
It was a society built on cooperation and competition, with each clan vying for prestige and power. This rivalry would become a driving force behind the creation of their most enduring legacy. Their isolation was almost absolute. Once they settled on Rapa Nui, there is little evidence of any further contact with the outside world for hundreds of years. They were utterly alone, a self-contained human experiment on a miniature scale.
All the resources they had were the ones on the island. This isolation fostered a unique cultural evolution, distinct from that of their Polynesian cousins elsewhere in the Pacific. They developed their own language, their own beliefs, their extraordinary artistic and spiritual expression. The Moai were the ultimate manifestation of this unique cultural journey, a testament to their ingenuity and their deep connection to their ancestral heritage. Life on the island was structured around their community and their environment.
They were skilled farmers, developing sophisticated rock gardens to protect crops from the wind and conserve moisture in the porous volcanic soil. They were also fishermen, though the lack of extensive coral reefs made fishing more challenging than on other tropical islands. Their society was deeply spiritual, centered on ancestor worship. They believed that their chiefs and other important figures had a spiritual power, or mana, that continued to protect the community even after death. It is from this powerful belief system that the impulse to carve the magnificent Moai arose.
So what was the purpose of these stone giants? Why would a society devote so much energy and so many resources to carving and erecting them? The answer lies in the Rapa Nui's beliefs about the afterlife and the power of their ancestors.
The Moai are not gods. They are best understood as living faces, or aringa aura, of deified ancestors. They were representations of powerful chiefs, other important lineage heads. The Rapa Nui believed that by carving a person's likeness in stone and placing it upon a ceremonial platform, or ahu, the ancestors' spiritual power, their mana, could be channeled for the benefit of the living.
These statues were powerful conduits, connecting the earthly world with the spiritual realm. They were positioned to watch over the villages and their descendants, offering protection and ensuring good fortune. Almost all the Moai face inland with their backs to the sea and the world of spirits. The Ahu platforms were sacred sites, the spiritual center of each clan. The bigger the statue, the more mana it was thought to contain and the more prestige it brought to the clan. This led to a spiritual and social arms race.
Each statue was a communal effort, involving much of a clan. Specialist carvers in the Rano Raraku quarry, teams preparing the roads, teams building the Ahu platform. The entire process, carving, transport, erection, was a massive undertaking that unified the clan. A physical manifestation of devotion, honoring their heritage and securing their future. Placement on the Ahu was highly ceremonial, with great feasts and rituals to consecrate the site and awaken the ancestor's spirit within the stone. The final touch: coral eyes, red scoria pupils.
Imagine the moment those eyes were placed into the sockets. In that instant, the statue became spiritually alive, its gaze filled with protective power. Red top knots, pukao, placed on some heads, carved from a different reddish volcanic rock. They represented traditional hairstyle of high-ranking individuals, added prestige and mana to the monument, symbols of power, faith, and lineage carved into the landscape. For generations, the question of how the Rapa Nui moved these colossal statues has been one of archaeology's greatest riddles.
The quarry at Rano Raraku, where nearly all the Moai were carved, is on one side of the island. The ceremonial Ahu platforms are scattered all along the coastline, some more than 10 miles away. Remember, this was a society with no metal tools, no wheels, no draft animals.
The early European visitors, seeing a treeless landscape, were baffled. This led to all sorts of fanciful theories, from psychic powers to extraterrestrial visitors. One of the earliest and most enduring theories proposed that the statues were moved horizontally. The Rapa Nui, it was suggested, would have felled the island's giant palm trees and used the trunks as rollers, creating a kind of moving track. The statue would be laid on its back on a wooden sledge, and teams of people would pull it forward with ropes made from tree bark fiber, rolling it over the logs.
This method is plausible and has been demonstrated to work with smaller replicas. It would have required a vast amount of timber, not just for the rollers, which would have been crushed under the immense weight, but also for the sledges and levers. This log-rolling hypothesis neatly explained two mysteries at once: how the statues were moved and why the island lost its trees. While compelling, this theory has faced challenges. Experimental archaeology shows enormous labor needs and rapid log destruction. Oral traditions speak not of sliding, but of the statues walking.
Another idea suggests that the statues were moved on their backs using interlocking wooden tracks, similar to a railway, more stable than rollers and requiring less timber, but incredibly labor-intensive to build and move. Proponents point to ancient roads crisscrossing the island, interpreted as prepared pathways for these transport systems. The debate has raged for decades. Each theory has its merits and its flaws, but the Rapa Nui's own stories offered a clue that was long overlooked.
What if the oral traditions were not just metaphor? What if the Moai really did walk? This is the basis of a more recent and fascinating theory, championed by archaeologists Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo. They took the phrase neka neka, to walk without legs, quite literally. Statues abandoned on transport roads looked different. The road statues lean forward and have a D-shaped base. That base makes them unstable on their backs, but ideal for rocking side to side. The center of mass is perfectly suited to that motion. The walking theory says the statues were moved upright.
Teams used ropes tied around the head and around the base. Pulling in a coordinated rhythm, they rocked the statue from one front corner to the other, shuffling it forward almost like walking. Think of moving a heavy refrigerator by tilting and pivoting it on corners.
The story of Easter Island is often told as a simple tragedy of ecocide. However, recent research suggests the story is far more complex. While the island was indeed deforested, attributing it solely to human recklessness might be too simplistic.
The Polynesian rat, which arrived with the first settlers, played a far more significant role than previously thought. With no natural predators, populations exploded, feeding on palm seeds and preventing regeneration. Each tree felled had no saplings to replace it. A perfect storm with agriculture, some timber use, and an invasive species. This revised understanding paints a more nuanced picture. They grappled with an ecological catastrophe spiraling out of control and adapted with techniques like rock gardens, manavai, to protect and grow crops.
The societal collapse was not as sudden or violent as once believed. While there was clan conflict, tales of island-wide cannibalistic warfare are sensationalized. The carving era ended as resources grew scarce. The society did not vanish. It transformed. As the era of Moai building waned, a new obsession rose. The Birdman cult, Tangata Manu. Resources dwindled. Hereditary chiefs lost authority. The people needed a new way to choose leaders, allocate scarce resources. The Birdman competition, dramatic, dangerous, centered at Orongo on Rano Kau, Motu Nui, visible below.
Each year, representatives gathered. The goal? Be the first to collect the egg of the sooty tern nesting on tiny, treacherous Motu Nui. The Hopu Manu had to scale down the 1,000-foot cliffs, swim through shark-infested waters, and wait, sometimes for weeks, for the first tern to lay its egg. Protect the fragile egg, swim back, and climb the cliff face. The first to return with an intact egg was declared Tangata Manu, considered sacred, a representative of the creator god Make.
For the next year, he lived in seclusion. His clan enjoyed special privileges and control over resources. The competition redistributed power and maintained social order, replacing hereditary chiefs with a system based on strength, cunning, a great deal of luck. The legacy endures in petroglyphs until the 1860s when missionaries and slave traders arrived, devastating traditional society. One enduring image is giant heads sticking out of the ground, fueling memes proclaiming the discovery that the heads have bodies. In truth, archaeologists have known this for a century.
These are quarry slope statues, incomplete figures buried over centuries by natural erosion from the hillside. Recent excavations removed soil to reveal full torsos, yielding a trove of information. Buried portions are well preserved, showing intricate back carvings, crescents, perhaps canoes, and other symbols still being deciphered. Excavations also found stone tools, toki, left by carvers. Their number suggests continuous, near-industrial carving. Soil around statues proved incredibly fertile. Analyses suggest deliberate enrichment with crops like bananas, taro, sweet potatoes.